Thanks to Shapr3D for sponsoring this video. So a lot of you guys probably don't know this, but I actually have a second YouTube channel that I started a couple months ago on the recommendation of my therapist as a way to improve my speech and mental health and all of that. And I've been struggling with this very small but very irritating problem with my camera setup for that channel. And yeah, I want to give you guys a little background on what that problem is, but I know not everyone's going to care about that, so if you want to just skip forward, feel free to use the timestamp. So the way I record content is pretty similar between the two channels. Instead of recording to the camera, everything's recorded into this 1 terabyte SSD that's inside this monitor/recorder, except for this video for obvious reasons. However, the length of the videos are very different between the two different channels. So for Bambulab Creations, the clips vary anywhere between 10 seconds to maybe 5-6 minutes tops. And for my other channel, since it's a movie reaction channel, the videos are usually at least 2 hours long. So I ran into this problem where the recorder would stop at random times past the 1 hour mark. And I narrowed that problem down to the HDMI cable. And eventually I found this HDMI cable that worked consistently without fail. I'm sure anyone who's familiar with video recording equipment probably knows who makes this cable, but this is definitely not an ad for them. But yeah, this cable definitely has its own flaws. You can tell that it's really short. It's only 16 inches long, and the next length that they sell is 15 feet long. And to be honest with you, I am kind of worried that the length is one of the causes for the problem I was having, so I really don't want to risk that. But yeah, so far this setup works, but sometimes during the 2 hours of recording, this cable does start creeping forward, and this being a wide angle lens, it will capture a purple vignette at the bottom of the image. And also note, pushing this monitor backwards is not an option, even though it looks like I can do it. And before anyone say anything, I've already tried 10 different HDMI cables. None of them worked consistently, and the problem is not with the SSD card. So I'm staying with this cable because I can trust it, but I just need to solve this one little problem with the setup where the cable wants to creep forward to block the lens. So today I'm going to show you guys how to model a part in Shapr3D on the iPad, and we're going to 3D print it and hopefully solve this problem. And also, before we start, I just want you guys to know that you can definitely follow along with the free version for the modeling portion of the tutorial. However, you will not be able to export the project to your 3D printer using the free version. But I will upload a 3D printable file to my website for you to download if that is something you like to do. Or better yet, if you want to upgrade to the pro version of Shapr3D, you can use my code BambulabCreations10 and save 10%. Okay, guys. I'm so sorry for this super long intro. I just want to give you some background on this. It was a real problem that I've been trying to solve for a little while now. It's not just a random project that I came up with for the sake of video. Anyways, let's get to this. So let's go ahead and we're gonna fire up Shapr3D and we're gonna start a new project. So just like on the desktop, we're gonna start by setting up our units, and we're gonna use millimeters, lock our grid size to 1 millimeter, and make sure that all of our snapping functions are turned on. And we're going to start by going to a top view, and let's zoom out a little bit. And obviously the first thing we're going to do is take some measurements. So let's go ahead and we're going to measure this top surface here. You probably can't tell from the video, but this edge right here, it's raised up a little bit. So yeah, if we measure that, it's about 15 millimeters wide. And as for the length, we're also just gonna measure to that corner right there. That's gonna be about 25 millimeters. And also we're gonna measure the bolt. So the shaft is about 10 millimeters long. The diameter is 6 millimeters. And the head of the bolt is about 9.4, 9.3 millimeters. And the height of the head is about, let's call it 3.3 millimeters. All right, now we're ready to go back into Shapr3D. Let's go under Sketch, and we are gonna use a center rectangle. So make sure that the type is set to center. And we're going to start by sketching at the origin, which is different from what we've done in the past, but you'll see why in a second. So we're just going to drag out like this, and we're going to set our dimensions to 25 millimeters by 15 millimeters, which is the area of the mounting surface that we measured earlier. Okay, now let's rotate out of that view, and we're going to extrude this up. So the length of the shaft of that bolt was 10 millimeters, but we don't have to extrude it that high. So we're just going to set that to 6 millimeters, which should be sufficient enough. Okay, now let's cut the holes for the bolt. Double tap on this top surface, and we're going to use the circle tool. So the diameter of the head of the bolt was, 9.3 millimeters. So we're going to sketch a circle that is 10 millimeters in diameter, just so that we can have some clearance for the bolt to float inside of. And the height of the bolt head was 3.3, I think. So we're going to extrude that downward 4 millimeters. All right, now let's double tap on that new surface we just created, and we're going to draw another circle on the inside. And this is going to be the hole of the shaft of the bolt, which had a diameter of 6 millimeters. So we'll make that 7 millimeters. Once again, it's just to prevent the bolt from binding inside. And this time, we will push that all the way through like that. All right, so we have our main body. Now, if you remember, there's not a lot of room between the top of the monitor and the bottom of the camera lens, right? So it'd be best if we can route that cable behind the monitor. So what we're gonna do is model a couple clips on the back side of this main body for holding the cable this way. So to do that, let's double tap on the side face, and we're gonna start sketching on that. And the first thing we're going to do is turn this construction on. That way anything we sketch just becomes a construction geometry. And we're going to sketch a line starting on this edge right here. And just make sure that we're not snapping to this midpoint right here, because we want to be able to grab this point and move it up and down. Also notice how this line is not horizontal right now. Tap to select it and use the horizontal vertical constraint to lock it down to horizontal, so that when we grab and move it, it stays horizontal like that. And the length of this line doesn't really matter, but yeah, we can lock it to, 15 millimeters, just so that we can lock it in place. Now let's turn the construction off. And remember, the clip that we're going to be drawing is going to look like this, right, for holding the cable. So we're going to use a circle tool. And I already measured the diameter of the cable. It was 4.4 millimeters. But the circle we're going to, let's go back to normal to that sketch. The circle we're going to draw first is actually going to be 8 millimeters, and we're going to draw on this line. And once again, make sure that we're not snapping to any other points on this line, because we want to be able to move this point along this line like that. Yeah, and we're just going to set that to 8 millimeters instead, because this is going to be the outside diameter of that clip, okay? It's not going to be the inside. And for now, we are going to set this distance from the center of the clip to the edge of our body. I'm going to set that to 5 millimeters for now. And we'll change that later once we see how everything looks. Okay, we're going to switch back to the line tool, and we're going to draw 2 lines. Let me zoom in here so you can see better. And we're going to draw 2 lines. So one from this point on the body to our circle, and another line from this point on the body to our circle. And we want to make both of these lines tangent to our circle. So let's select this line and the circle, and we're going to use the tangent constraint over here. And we're going to do the same to this other side as well. Okay, now let's switch back to the circle tool. And we're going to draw another circle inside this larger circle, starting from that same center point. This time, we're going to make that circle 4.5 millimeters. This is the circle that's going to actually hold our cable. So it's just slightly larger than the diameter of our cable, just for tolerancing. And once again, we're going to switch back to the line tool. Yeah, I'm sorry about all this switching back and forth, but it is what it is. And we're going to draw 2 more horizontal lines on either side of the construction line we drew earlier. Yeah, just make sure that they're horizontal. So select both of these and use the horizontal vertical constraint. And also, we want to make sure that both of these lines are symmetrical about that construction line. So to do that, select both of these lines, and then we're going to use the symmetry tool over here. And then we're going to tap the line that we want both of these lines to be symmetrical about, which is the construction line right here. And you see how they shifted, right? Okay, so now if you select one of these lines and we move it around, you see the other line moving with it, right? All right, cool. Now we want to set the dimension between these two lines to be 1 millimeter smaller than the dimension of the diameter of the circle. So we're going to set that to 3.5. Okay, yeah, just so you know, I am completely guessing about these values. I have no idea if these are going to work. We're going to print it, test it out. If it works, great. If not, we're going to come back, make changes, print it again, test it out, and so on. It's just how engineering works. But yeah, anyway, you guys remember that we have this raised lip on the mounting surface of the monitor, right? That means we can't have this clip coming straight out like this, which was why we made this construction line floating. So we can just grab this end and move it, or, okay. I was wrong. So somehow, maybe it's because we locked this. So let's unlock that. And now let's try to move it. Still no? That's weird. So something is locking it in place. Oh, you know what? For some reason, yeah, this line here is horizontal. Yeah, let's undo that real quick. Bring back all the other constraints. It's because of this constraint right here, this 90-degree constraint. So let's get rid of that guy. So select that constraint and use this delete constraint right here. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have the same constraint, but I did when I made this. So that's why I couldn't move this. So now, okay, still no. Okay, maybe it's this one right here. So I'm going to delete that constraint. Let's try again. There we go. Yeah, for some reason, make sure that these two are coincident again. Those two constraints were messing with each other. Okay, yeah, now everything's back to normal. It was mainly that 90-degree constraint I had there. But yeah, see, this was the main reason why we left this one floating. It's so that we can move this one around and we can get away from that raised lip on this monitor right there. And what I'm going to do is, let me zoom in here. And I want to move this as high as possible without it actually snapping to that top corner. So I'm just going to set this distance right here to 0.5. And I also don't think this clip needs to stick out this far. So let me see if I can change this value as well. Yeah, so I'm going to change that value to 4. So basically it's almost tangent. Oh yeah, it is tangent to that edge. And yeah, everything looks pretty good now. I'm going to use the trim tool now to cut away everything I don't need. So let's select the trim tool. And yeah, let me zoom in here so you guys can see how I'm trimming this. It's a little hard to visualize exactly what we need to trim away, but the best way is to just start with the things that are obvious that we don't need. So things like this. Oops, there we go. Things like this. Definitely don't need that. So we have the clip coming out like this. Definitely don't need that. The cable is going to sit in here, so definitely don't need that. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, the clip is going to look something like that. And don't need this. All right, that looks pretty good. Drop the trim tool. I think one last thing I don't like is this corner here because of how sharp, how abruptly it ends with the body. It's going to cause a lot of stress here. I mean, it's not going to see a lot of stress, obviously, but still, I just don't really like it. I think what I want to do is draw a line. Oops. Yeah, I need one of those sketch gloves. But yeah, it's actually a good idea. If you use the iPad with Shapr3D a lot, it's probably a good idea to get one of those gloves. But yeah, I'm going to sketch a line from the top of the clip to the top of our body like this. And yeah, let's select that line and the top of the clip and make them tangent to one another. Let's set the distance between that point and that corner. Oops. And that corner. Yeah, let's do 5 millimeters. So that's almost parallel to the bottom face, right? And let's go back to the trim tool again and trim away this stuff that we don't need. Oh yeah, and I think we need to close off this sketch here. Okay, now let's exit the sketch. And we're gonna extrude this guy out 5 millimeters. Okay, that looks pretty good, I think. Let's add a couple of roundovers to finish up this guy. So for these outside edges, we're going to do 0.5. That looks pretty good. And then for these two inside edges, yeah, 1 millimeter looks good. All right, now let's double tap on this guy. And here's the reason why we model this at the origin. So now we can use the mirror tool. Now we can simply use this plane right here at the origin to mirror this guy over. We don't have to create a separate plane. So it just makes things a lot easier when you're creating stuff like this. And yeah, make sure that Keep Originals is on and click Done. There we go. Our part's almost done. Now all we have to do is drag to select everything. And we're going to come down and use the Union tool to combine them. So when you're using the Union tool, we have the option to select Keep Originals on or off. So if you open up the Items Manager, you see we have 3 parts selected, right? If you keep Originals on and you click Done, we have a 4th part now. So we have the 3 original parts and a 4th part that's a combination of all 3. But if let's undo that real quick. If we select all of them, use the Union again, if we do Keep Originals off, click Done, then we just end up with 1 single part. Yeah, for this particular example, since this is our final part, I'm just going to keep Originals off. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, just keep that in mind for, like depends on what project you're working on. Sometimes maybe it's a good idea to keep the Originals on if you want to do any modifications and stuff like that. But yeah, now let's add some roundovers and finish this guy up. Let's select those. Let's close that up. Let's do 5 millimeters for that. And I'm also going to add some chamfers. I'm a really big fan of the 2-distance chamfer because they're a lot more fun than just a boring 45-degree chamfer. They're sharper and you can modify the values in the history sidebar here. And they just look a lot cooler. Oops, let's make that 2 and make this 3. See? They just look a lot cooler, right? Let's do the same thing to the top as well. So we'll make the top maybe 2, and then make the bottom 3. Something like that. Yeah, you just get a lot more freedom with it, and it just looks more custom. See what we can do with this. Oh, I don't like this. Yeah, I think something's weird with our sketch. Like the way the bodies are combined together, it's not letting us create a chamfer down here. That concerns me just because this is going to be right on that lip that we have right here. Like I want to make sure that we are definitely going to get away from that lip. And this is why I'm really glad that in Shapr3D, our sketches are directly linked with our bodies. So we can come back in here and make changes a lot easier. So let's go to our history sidebar and come to the sketch that controls that part. And what we can do is hold down on that sketch, and we are going to insert a breakpoint. So once we do that, it hides all the steps below it so that all we see is that sketch. So we're going to just focus on that. And let's go normal to that sketch. So what I'm going to do, tap on that point right there. And I'm going to see if I can move that point. Why is that? Okay, there we go. Yeah, if that point for you is locked on there, what you have to do is select that constraint right there, and you want to delete that constraint, okay? That's the coincident constraint. So once you delete that constraint, you'll be able to move it along that line. As you're moving it along that line, just make sure that you're not changing anything else, that this thing isn't flying off the page. Yeah, so if all the other constraints are done correctly, you should be able to move this around, and the only thing moving is this point right here. Oops, my bad. Yeah, so it should look like this. Yeah, I'm just gonna make this distance 0.5, like that. I don't know what that point is right there. I'm just gonna delete it. Yeah, so I'm basically just getting it off that edge. Let's exit that sketch. And I'm going to get rid of that breakpoint. Once I get rid of that breakpoint, you see that whole tree refreshes, and my part basically refreshes, and you see the whole part updates, right? Yeah, that's a great thing about parametric modeling. Such an easy process, right? Okay. Now now we should be able to add a chamfer down here without any issues. So let's drag this bottom chamfer back. See what we can do, how far we can drag this guy. Oh, let's see, 2.3. Oh, 2.2, it looks like, no, we should be able to do more. Doesn't want to. Illegal overlap. Oh, that's interesting. Let's do 0.5. Oh, there we go. There we go. Look at that. It's almost tangent. It looks like it's tangent to this now. That's perfect. This will definitely get it off that edge. All right, that looks great. Yeah, that looks great. I don't like how we barely have any material there. I'm just gonna adjust that real quick. Just probably make that 1 millimeter. Do the same thing over here, make that 1 millimeter. So we just have a slight chamfer like that. Actually, probably make that 2, yeah. Okay, yeah. I don't think we really need any roundovers here. We'll just leave this the way it is. All right, I think I'm pretty happy with the way it is now. Let's go ahead and export this for 3D print. So the way to do this is go up here to Share and go to Export, Export Project. And usually for 3D printing, I use 3MF. And instead of clicking on export, for me, what I like to do is click on here, and I just airdrop it to myself. It's the quickest, easiest way to do it. And I just airdrop it to my desktop right here. So let's switch over to the desktop. Just so you guys know, I am by no means an expert in 3D printing. I don't print a whole lot. The 3D printer I have is a Bambulab X1 Carbon. So once I'm on the computer, I'll just grab the file and I'll drag it into Bamboo Studio, and that'll launch the program and open up our project. So we'll click on Slice Plate, and let's minimize that real quick. And as you can see, let's zoom in here real quick. Since our clips don't have anything underneath them, it does require some supports. So hopefully this thing isn't gonna come out really ugly since our part is pretty small, but we can make some adjustments here. So come under support and let's make the tree slim. So the tree is just, a little bit smaller. So hopefully that'll come out looking a little bit better. And maybe we'll support the critical regions only. Since these supports are also where we are holding the cable, I'm kind of worried that once we take the supports off, there's going to be some residual material left in here that's going to make it hard for us to put the cable in there. But yeah, a little bit of sanding will probably fix that. Let's see what else we can change in here. Oh, for this guy over here, this is a tower. This is just for making time lapses for me. Let's see, we can probably make that smaller just to save some material. Okay, yeah, so everything looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and click print plate. Oh, for material, I'm gonna select this one. This is the orange color. I think that'll go pretty well with the purple. So let's go ahead and send it over to the printer. So it's actually been a few days since I finished the project, hence the change in clothes. I've just been really sick and my throat's still not 100%. But anyways, this project, it actually came out better than I expected because one, we didn't have to make any further changes to the size of the clips to make the cables fit. Two, the part cleared the lip on the mounting surface perfectly. And three, and this is the best part of all, I realized after I assembled everything, if we had designed the arms to hold the cable further back or at a lower angle, it would have interfered with the insertion or removal of the SSD card, which was not something I even thought about when I was modeling that part. So I'm so glad that came out perfectly. Yeah, as you can see, this is my favorite way of using Shapr3D. This was what made Shapr3D my favorite program to use. Just being at the location of the problem with my iPad, with my measurement tools, and just model right on the spot. I mean, yeah, with this particular problem, I just happened to be at my desk with my computer, but I'm sure you can easily imagine and probably experience having a practical problem and don't have easy access to a computer. So with Shapr3D and iPad, you completely eliminate the need to run back and forth between the problem and your computer, and just saving a ton of time and money. But anyways, guys, I hope this video was helpful for you. And yeah, if you enjoyed it, be sure to leave me one of these. And also, if you haven't yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And hopefully I will see you in the next one.